Most business owners make one big mistake in their content. They talk to their audience like everyone is at the same awareness level. And if you're a coach or consultant, that mistake is very expensive. And it's the reason why your content feels like it's getting attention but not the traction that you're looking for. That's getting views without the leads and getting a bunch of engagement without any sale. In this video, I'm going to break down how to become omnipresent through the 5 stages of awareness and how to use each one to design a YouTube content strategy that actually converts viewers into clients, and how the biggest people in the industry leverage this to their strength. So instead of throwing random videos into the void, actually start creating content that builds trust, builds authority, and predictable demand everywhere your audience looks. So let's get straight into it. Start with stage 1, which is unaware viewers. Now these viewers, they don't know that they have a problem yet. They're not thinking about working with you yet, and they're not comparing solutions. They're just scrolling and looking for something that resonates with them. And at this stage, you are not selling your service and you're not proving your expertise. What you're doing right now is you're trying to build alignment with these people. The goal of this stage is to attract people who share your values, who share your beliefs and a way of seeing the world, and not necessarily try to target the people who are ready to buy just yet. And the purpose of this type of content is that these people become your die-hard fan. These are the ones who watch every single video that you make, they defend you in comments, and they trust you before you ever pitch to them. And they buy the moment they become problem aware. And you are not educating them yet. This is simply worldview positioning. What you're doing is you're showing what you believe in, what you disagree with, what you think is broken within your industry, and how you see the world differently. And the reason we do this is because people don't follow brands first, they actually follow the belief system that you have. One case study that we're going to go over is how Brez Scales was able to build such a magnetic personal brand through his content. Now, Brez doesn't try to convince you that he's the expert from the get-go, right? That's not how he gets you hooked in. He doesn't sell a program within the first sentence of him actually being in contact with you. What he does is he talks about the discipline, the identity he had when he first started, and where he actually came from. And what he does is, as you're watching this, something subtle actually happens. You're not thinking, how does this help me? You're thinking, I'm exactly where this guy was when he first started. And what you're doing is you're connecting where your prospects currently are at and where you are, and that bridge is essentially the thing that you are selling to them. And that's the point. His content isn't exactly designed to convert people at the very start. It's designed to create alignment with you, the viewer, being able to see yourself in his previous position. And what he does is he also filters out people who do not share his values, and the audience that he has become die-hard fans. And when someone resonates with that belief system, they don't just watch one video. They binge all of his content, they defend him in the comment section, and they actually trust whatever he says once he starts pitching down the road. And by the time they ever reach a problem-aware stage, the relationship is already built. By the time they think, oh, I actually have this problem with my ads, or my ads aren't converting, or the ROAS is bad, or whatever it is with freelance brand scaling, right? The relationship is already built, and that is what belief first content is able to do for you. That is the stage 1 of unaware content, and it creates this emotional connection before the logic actually shows up, and it makes future selling actually feel natural instead of it being shoved down your audience's throat. And the key shift that you need to make here when it comes to stage 1 is that you're not trying to be liked by everyone. You're trying to be the only solution to the right people. If you keep trying to talk to everyone within your content, you essentially come up to no one. You do not resonate with anyone because you're trying to be too broad and you're trying to hit a larger TAM. What you should be talking about is what you believe that others are afraid to say, what frustrates you that the industry accepts as normal, and what standards you refuse to lower. To most business owners, this doesn't feel like content that actually moves the needle. But what this does is this is content that allows you to build an actual brand and connection with your viewers. And that is the purpose of stage 1 unaware content. Stage 2, this is where we start going into the problem-aware viewers. We switch from stage 1, where people followed you because they agreed with how you think. At stage 2, they stay because you explained something about their situation that they couldn't put into words. They know that something's wrong now, and they don't fully understand why. And this is where trust is either built or lost. Now, most creators, they mess this stage up by jumping straight into solutions. You should do this, you should do that, you should try to run this new funnel. You should try to run this new content strategy. And they start teaching tactics, explaining tools, explaining steps. How should you do one thing? But the audience isn't exactly ready for that yet, because you don't earn trust by just telling them what to do. You earn trust by understanding their problem fully. If you're able to articulate what they're currently dealing with better than they can articulate it themselves, then you have already won. Because at stage 2, your job isn't to solve just yet. Your job is to diagnose. You are currently the doctor for the problem or the sickness that they have. When someone watches your content and thinks, wait, that's exactly what I am dealing with right now, you've actually won. That is raps. Anyone who thinks that, it's easier to sell to them later down the road. And you're not just helpful anymore, you're actually a credible source of information to solve their problem. Great diagnosis content does something very specific. It explains why their current situation or their current efforts isn't exactly working. And not just in a shallow way, we're trying to, if you just want to increase your views, just have a better hook. You're actually breaking down the exact problem that they are facing in a way that reframes the entire situation, right? You're showing them that the issue isn't exactly a lack of effort, right? It's not a lack of consistency. It's not a lack of motivation. It's actually a deeper structural problem that they didn't know existed in the first place. And as you explain that, something powerful actually happens. They stop blaming themselves, right? They stop chasing random fixes, random hacks that they can find off of a 30-second TikTok. And they actually start leaning in and listening to the solution you have to their problem. This is where you widen the gap and you start to probe into the problem. And you show them where they are now, where they could be, and what staying stuck is actually costing them every month. Every month they're not solving that problem. They're missing out on 5K per month on revenue, 10K per month on revenue. They're missing out on 10 pounds of gains or 10 pounds of fat loss, right? You're missing out on being able to be more productive, or you're missing out on 2 hours or 3 hours every single day because you're not efficient with your workflow. Something where you're able to actually show them the losses that they're able to take with the inaction that they're doing. And you do this not just financially, but also emotionally. What is the stress that they get because they haven't fixed the problem? The wasted time. It's the feeling of spinning their wheels because they keep running on this rat race trying to chase and fix the problem with a bunch of band-aid solutions. And this is why stage 2 content converts well. Because when someone understands the true cost of not fixing the problem, the desire to solve it actually skyrockets. It just goes like boom. They really want to solve that problem right now because they're starting to see, shit, I'm missing out on way too much if I don't solve this ASAP. And notice what you are doing here with stage 2 type of content. You're not talking about your offer yet, right? You're not positioning yourself as the hero who will solve all of their problems. The goal here is to position yourself as the doctor who is diagnosing the current problem that they are facing. A great case study here is how Iman Gaji actually does his content. Iman doesn't jump straight into tactics, right? He doesn't open with, here's the step-by-step guide to get to X. Instead, he starts pulling the rug out from under the viewer's assumption. He talks about why grinding harder doesn't work, why most people stay broke even while working, and the money you make depends on the vehicle or the business model that you are running. This is what Iman Gaji frames to his viewers before he starts going over the actual business model. Someone who can set the frame with their prospects and say, here's what's actually going on, and here's why everything you've tried hasn't worked. And that level of clarity is very rare in the online space today. Absolute clarity is what creates that authority with your prospect. By the end of stage 2, your viewer isn't asking, should I do something about this? They're asking, what's the right way to actually fix it? And that question naturally leads them into stage 3, where solutions finally make sense. And that's how problem-aware content works when it's actually done right. By the way, if this is something that you have been looking into, then you can go ahead to my Instagram and actually message me there, and we'll give you a few free resources as well as a YouTube audit to see where your viewers are actually dropping off and where we can actually fix the funnel that you currently have. And this is where we go into stage 3, which is solution-aware content. By the time someone reaches this stage, something important has already happened. They know that they have a problem, they understand why they're stuck, and they're actively looking for a way out. Right? They're watching videos, they're comparing approaches, they're taking notes. They're also overwhelmed because once you're solution aware, every creator sounds confident, every method claims to work, and everything feels plausible, right? They have the results to back it up. And this is where confusion actually starts to set in because you don't know which path you should take, which solution should you actually try and do. And this is where most people make the wrong move. They either hard sell too early that their method is the only method that they should be running, or they overteach and they drown the viewers in a bunch of 10 steps on how to fix one specific problem. And what happens is both kill momentum, right? You shouldn't hard hard sell and shouldn't try to just overload your viewers with information. Stage 3 is not about dumping information, it's about organizing the chaos that they are feeling. Your job here is to help the viewer answer one specific question. Which solution actually makes sense for me? This is where the framework that you have actually matters. Framework content works because it simplifies the decision making that they need to make. It turns complexity into structure, and that structure is what creates the trust. Instead of saying, here's everything you need to do, you say, here's the logic behind what works. And the moment they understand the logic behind your frameworks and who it's made for, you're showing them how to think and not just what to do. Great solution-aware content introduces the process without necessarily pitching it. You walk them through how the system works, why each part exists, and how the pieces connect together. And the subtle shift here is very important. You're no longer diagnosing the problem, you're positioning your own framework as the lens through which the problem gets solved. You're saying, now that you understand what's broken, this is the structure that fixes it. And this is where Nick's settings solution-aware content actually does really well. Nick doesn't start with steps, he starts with the structure. One of the best examples of this is his IG profile funnel. Instead of saying post more or just optimize your bio, he reframes the entire Instagram profile as a funnel, right? Your content holds the attention, your profile captures the intent, and your DM flow converts the interest into conversations that then lead into conversions. And suddenly, Instagram stops feeling chaotic and actually starts feeling like a logical framework. And that's the power of framework content, right? Nick isn't telling you everything that you need to do, but rather he's showing you how the system works. And as a viewer, you're not thinking, let me just copy this step by step. You're thinking, oh, this explains why my profile never actually converts. That's the moment that solution-aware content actually clicks with the viewer, and then they find that your framework is the one that they need to have. And frameworks like the IG profile funnel work because they reduce the complexity, they give people a mental model, and they help them evaluate other people's advice. And now when the viewer sees some random tips online, they can sort them into the context that you provided. This affects the top of funnel. This is what conversion is. This is the part that doesn't actually matter. And this is where mini system breakdowns actually shine. And when your framework actually feels simple, logical, repeatable, that actually becomes obvious, because this is where positioning quietly happens. You're not claiming to be the best, you're just letting the structure that you have provided prove it for you. And by the end of stage 3, they now see what kind of solution that they need, what they need to avoid, and what direction actually makes sense based on their current situation. And naturally, that leads them to the next question. Has anyone actually done this successfully? Which is exactly why stage 4 content exists. And stage 4 content is where people are then becoming more product aware. By the time someone reaches this stage, they already know who you are, right? They've watched multiple videos, they understand the problem, they understand the solution, but there's still one quiet question in their head of whether or not will this actually work for someone like me in my specific situation. And this is where most creators assume logic is what will close the deal, and chances are it will. At stage 4, people don't need more explanations, they need evidence, not promises, not testimonials that feel scripted. They need to see themselves in the result. Aside from you with the stage 1 content where you show people the gap between where you are right now and where you were before, you're actually going to show people who have you taken through the system and the results that you've gotten with them. And this is where social proof content does the heavy lifting, but not in the way that you think. Most people think that social proof means one thing. It's a polished client interview, it's a highlight reel, it's a before and after slideshow. And while that can work at this point in stage, when it comes to the info space, it is the weakest form of proof, because a lot of people have then staged this content. It feels staged, it feels fabricated, it feels like an outlier instead of something that is supposed to happen every single time that someone joins your program. And real buyers today are sophisticated. They've watched thousands of testimonials and they can smell rehearsed praise instantly, right? They can feel it when the prospect is actually someone who's just an outlier within the program, and they're not exactly the people who typically just join and get those typical results. Great stage 4 content doesn't say, look how good we are, look at what we've done for them, look at what we're able to do. What great stage 4 content does is it says, look at how our clients were able to do it. You walk people through who the client was, where they were stuck, what changed once the system was applied, and what results followed. And you do it very, very calmly. No exaggeration, no overproduction. You say it how it is, and you try to show as much transparency as possible, because authenticity beats persuasion here, showing real calls, real dashboards, and real timelines. Because even imperfect wins build more trust than the perfect story, right? And here's the subtle shift that happens at this stage, and I want to show that through one of the best guys currently in the industry that does this, Suego. The viewers stop evaluating the idea and they start evaluating themselves. And that's when resistance drops because the solution already makes sense. The framework already feels right. And all they needed was proof that it works for the people in their position. When someone sees their own situation reflected in another person's story, belief clicks into place. This is where credibility finally matters. Not your credentials, not your resume, but your track record with people just like them. That's what stage 4 actually does. It removes the doubt without excessive pressure, and it replaces uncertainty with familiarity. And once someone believes that this could work for me, they don't really need convincing anymore, and they just need a reason to move, which brings us to stage 5. A lot of his content is actually just documentation content of him being with the clients, talking to the clients, breaking down what their current beliefs are, what is their A+ problem. And as he shows this, he shows his credibility through the content itself. And once you've shown all that, all you really need to do is provide people a reason to start working with you and move today, which is stage 5 content, the most aware content. By the time someone reaches this stage, persuasion is no longer the lever because they already trust you, right? They already agree with you. They already believe that the solution works. The only thing you need to do is to provide clarity on one thing. What happens if I take the next step? And at the most aware stage, your job isn't to convince them anymore. It's no longer persuasion. It's moving uncertainty to process transparency, right? It's to be transparent with every step that you'll be taking them. You're showing how working together actually works, what the experience feels like, what happens after they click. And when people can visualize the process, the fear completely disappears. The guy who did this very recently is none other than Alex Hormozi during the $100 million book launch. This is the exact principle Alex Hormozi applied during the $100 million book launch, where the launch didn't exactly rely on hype, although he did use a bit of those tactics. It relied more on the certainty through repetition and transparency. When someone is most aware, the goal isn't to convince them to buy. The goal is to make not taking action feel illogical. And the way you do that is by removing every single last unknown variable for your viewer. During the book launch, Hormozi didn't just say, here's the book, here's everything in it. What he did is he showed what's inside, who's it for, who's it not for, how to use it, and what happens after you get it. Over and over and over again, right? Different angles. May you be an agency owner, an info business owner, a e-com store owner, someone in the SaaS industry, right? He took different angles with the same message, and he reaffirms this. And that repetition didn't annoy his buyers, it actually reassured them because he doubled down on the goodwill that he built with absolute certainty. You're reinforcing what they already know from multiple angles. This is where you walk through the exact offer that you have. You explain the process step by step, you show what working together looks like, and you remove the imagined risk when it comes to joining your program. Because at this stage, the only thing stopping action is ambiguity. And ambiguity is exactly what kills all of your momentum. And when you remove all of the uncertainty that people have, action becomes the natural next step. That is how Hormozi was able to convert at scale with years of goodwill, authority, and trust built within the market, and then cashing in by making the next step unmistakably clear. And you can do the exact same thing Hormozi did. You can have a 24-hour live stream of you doing a book launch or even a course launch, right? You can do a webinar funnel completely for free. But if you do not have all of the goodwill, of the authority, all of the stages 1 to 4 built out in the first place, then it's not going to work. And that is why Hormozi was able to do that and make $105 million in 72 hours, which is insane. What does this mean for you? If you're a coach or consultant, this changes how you think about content entirely. Your job is not to go viral. Your job is not to educate everyone in the industry. And it's definitely not to pitch in every single video. Your job is to guide people through awareness, right? Most coaches stay stuck because all of their content live in one specific stage. They either talk to only beginners or they only talk to people who are ready to buy. And that is why your content might get a few views, but the business feels inconsistent. But that is when you use the 5 stages of awareness and every video finally has a clear role. And once all 5 are working together, something completely shifts. People don't just discover you, they warm up to you automatically. They bid your content. They start trusting you before they even hop on a sales call with you. And that is how powerful understanding the 5 stages of awareness is in order to build that omnipresence to get that competitive edge against your competitors. And if you want us to actually implement this for you, where we map out your content to each awareness stage, build a system, and turn YouTube into a predictable client acquisition channel, then click the first link in the description below and book a call with our team, and we can see whether or not this is a good fit for us. And this is a genuine thing, right? If we think that we cannot help you, we'll point you towards a better direction, maybe someone else who is a better fit with your current situation, and we'll break down what stage your content is missing, where you're losing the buyers, and how to actually fix that. If that sounds good to you, then be sure to click the first link in the description below. Also, be sure to watch this next video, which goes over the entire system that we have in order to fulfill for our clients and also create content for ourselves in less than 24 hours for a month's worth of content.